Chapter 288. When the second bloodline was activated, Lu Ming felt that there was an endless amount of energy in his body. Every time he blasted out his spear, it was as though a stone tablet had been integrated into the spear. This made Lu Ming's every move and style extremely powerful. Bang! With a sweep of the spear, one of the beasts was sent flying. The 4 demonic beasts were like 4 rubber balls that were constantly sent flying by Lu Ming. After around 100 moves, the 4 beasts were defeated. Although these beasts are not as strong as real beasts, they are not too far off. It seems like if I were to unleash my full strength, I should be able to fight against an ordinary 5th-layer martial ancestor realm warrior. Lu Ming had a rough idea of his strength. After all, the difference in strength was different in every realm. Following this, Lu Ming walked forward. In front of him there was another ball of light. This time it was another secret manual. Lu Ming flipped it open and was overjoyed. Art of Wind and Cloud and Upper D rank skill. This was a high-grade earth-level cultivation technique. Skills were different from martial skills. Skills were the foundation of a martial artist. Only a good skill would allow one to continuously cultivate and achieve breakthroughs. A good skill would allow one to cultivate at a faster speed, and the chi produced would be more condensed, allowing one to reach a higher realm. A single cultivation technique was enough to create a sect. For example, the Mystic Essence Sword sect had a martial skill called the Mystic Essence Sword technique. A high-grade earth-level cultivation technique was many times more valuable than a high-grade earth-level martial skill. A upper D rank skill was much more valuable than a lower D rank skill. Lu Ming was overjoyed and kept it. Following this, he continued to move upward. Not long after, 8 peak 5th-layer martial ancestor realm beasts appeared in front of Lu Ming. Roar! One of the beasts let out a loud roar and pounced toward Lu Ming like a gust of wind. Human Dao Palm. Lu Ming struck out with his palm, causing a giant palm print to collide with the beast. Boom! Lu Ming's body trembled as he was knocked back by a huge force. As for the beast, it only took a few steps back. The strength of a demonic beast at the peak of the 5th level of the martial ancestor realm had already surpassed Lu Ming. Blood Zombie. With a thought, Lu Ming ordered the golden-eyed blood zombie to attack. Lu Ming would definitely not be able to defeat 8 demonic beasts at the peak of the 5th level of the martial ancestor realm. He might as well let the blood zombie attack. Roar! The blood zombie roared and pounced forward. It swung its claws continuously and clawed out. Chi! The 8 peak 5th-layer martial ancestor realm beasts were torn apart by the blood zombie like rags. Lu Ming did not find it strange, as he had already discovered that the golden-eyed blood zombie's cultivation was at the 7th-layer martial ancestor realm, which was extremely powerful. It could easily deal with 5th-layer martial ancestor realm beasts. After killing the demonic beast, Lu Ming moved forward with ease. There was still a ball of light waiting for him in front of him. This time it was a wooden box. Lu Ming opened the wooden box and found a strange piece of metal lying inside. Could this be flowing gold of heavenly fire? After taking a closer look, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and he was overjoyed. Flowing gold of heavenly fire was a rare treasure of the heavens and earth. It was also the main material used to forge level 5 spiritual weapons. Level 5 spiritual weapons were known as Emperor spiritual weapons and were exclusive to martial kings. Even martial kings would be envious of such a precious metal. Haha, I'm rich, I'm really rich. Lu Ming laughed heartily and put it away happily. An upper earth level martial skill and flowing gold of heavenly fire appeared here. I'm really looking forward to what's ahead. Lu Ming was looking forward to it. He continued to move forward with the blood zombie. In front of him, a figure stood with his hands behind his back. Yang Liuji. The last 2 paths finally converged. Lu Ming and Yang Liuji finally met. I didn't expect someone to be able to make it here. Looks like you're quite capable. Now I'll give you a chance. Go back the way you came and I'll spare your life. Yang Liuji spoke in a domineering tone as he looked down at Lu Ming with his hands behind his back. Who do you think you are? I'll return the same words to you. Get lost or you'll be the one to die. Lu Ming sneered. Yang Liuji's face instantly turned gloomy as he said in a deep voice, I guarantee that you'll regret your words. His voice was cold and filled with cold-killing intent. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Step by step he walked up unhurriedly. When Lu Ming neared the intersection of the 2 roads, Many demonic beasts condensed at that place. There were a total of 16 of them, and each of them emitted a terrifying aura. Early 6th Martial Ancestor Realm. The 16 demonic beasts were all at the early 6th Martial Ancestor Realm. When they gathered together, their aura was extremely terrifying. Roar! The 16 demonic beasts roared and pounced at Yang Liuji. Die! Yang Liuji shouted coldly as he threw out a punch. A sun appeared in the sky and a terrifying blazing energy exploded. The demonic beasts exploded one after another, turning into specks of light and dissipating. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. The geniuses on the Emperor leaderboard were indeed powerful. The demonic beasts at the early 6th Martial Ancestor Realm were completely crushed. Bam! Bam! The 16 demonic beasts exploded in the sky one after another like fireworks, creating a dazzling rain of light. Now you know the difference between you and me. However, it's too late for you to leave now. After killing the 16 demonic beasts, Yang Liuji stared at Lu Ming as he strode towards Lu Ming. Who said that I'm leaving? You're so full of yourself. Beat my pet first. Lu Ming sneered and waved his hand. Roar! The golden corpse pounced forward with a roar. This is... When Yang Liuji saw the golden eye blood corpse, his eyes narrowed and he threw out a punch. The fist force formed a sun and blasted towards the golden eye blood corpse. Boom! The blazing fist force collided with the golden eye blood corpse's claw radiance. The force wreaked havoc in all directions. The golden eye blood corpse and Yang Liuji both shuddered and took 7 or 8 steps back. Haha, it seems like you're just SOSO. You can't even beat my pet. Lu Ming laughed. However, he was secretly shocked. Yang Liuji's cultivation should be at the early 5th Martial Ancestor Realm. However, his combat strength could not be judged by his cultivation. He could at least fight someone 2 levels above him. Go to hell. Yang Liuji was shocked. His eyes were filled with boundless rage. His long hair danced in the wind and a blazing aura filled the air. It was the power of fire, and the power of fire was extremely strong. It was even stronger than Lu Ming's. Yang Liuji's power of fire is about to reach perfection. Lu Ming was surprised. Divine Sun Fist. Yang Liuji roared. His entire body emitted a dazzling light like a sun. Boom! Boom! He threw out a few punches in succession. Each punch was accompanied by a sun. The suns blasted towards the golden eye blood corpse. The golden eye blood corpse roared. Its entire body emitted a thick blood-red light. It clawed out with its blood-red nails. The claws were extremely sharp and seemed to be able to tear space apart. Bam! Bam! There were continuous sounds of collisions and explosions. The scene was extremely shocking. It was as if suns were being extinguished one after another. It was like the end of the world. The golden eye blood corpse roared. It was fearless and its body was invulnerable. It was unusually strong. Although it was only at the 7th Martial Ancestor Realm, its combat strength was incomparable to that of an ordinary 7th Martial Ancestor Realm. Chapter 289. Damn it! Yang Liuji roared in his heart and attacked even more violently. However, it was useless. The golden-eyed blood zombie's body was invulnerable. Yang Liuji's scorching fists landed on the golden-eyed blood zombie's body, but it did not feel anything. On the other hand, Yang Liuji had to avoid the golden-eyed blood zombie's claws. If he was not careful, he might be torn apart. Chi! After more than 10 moves, the golden-eyed blood zombie's claws landed on Yang Liuji's body. Yang Liuji tried his best to dodge, but it still left several wounds on his body. Roar! The golden-eyed blood zombie let out a violent roar and pounced on Yang Liuji. Yang Liuji's face was extremely ugly. Damn it, kid. Sooner or later, I'll make sure you die without a burial ground. Yang Liuji roared angrily and then rushed down the mountain. Take care. I won't see you off. Lu Ming waved his hand and said with a smile. This made Yang Liuji almost fall down. He was so angry that his body trembled and he almost vomited blood. In the blink of an eye, Yang Liuji disappeared. At the foot of the mountain, more than 1,000 people were waiting quietly. Who would be the first to come down? Everyone was thinking about this question. Maybe that kid will never come down. Some people sneered, thinking that Lu Ming would most likely die at the hands of Yang Liuji. Damn it, you can't die at the hands of trash like Yang Liuji. Xian Yanqing whispered. Although she knew that Lu Ming had the golden-eyed blood zombie with him, she was not confident. At this moment she could not help but look worried. Even she did not notice it. Someone is coming down. Suddenly there was an exclamation. Many people were shocked and couldn't help but look at the eighth path. There was no one on the eighth path. Everyone's hearts trembled as they looked at the first path. Yang Liuji was covered in blood and came down from the first path with a gloomy face. Whoosh! There was an uproar. More than 1,000 people were dumbfounded. The first to come down was Yang Liuji, and he was injured. Did he lose or win? Everyone was guessing that Yang Liuji might have killed Lu Ming and obtained the final reward. However, Yang Liuji's subsequent performance made everyone realize that Yang Liuji was most likely defeated. He stood at the foot of the mountain and looked at the top of the mountain with a gloomy expression. From his expression, it was obvious that he had lost. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Even Yang Liuji had been defeated. Just who was this person? On the mountain path, Lu Ming didn't know any of this. After watching Yang Liuji leave, Lu Ming turned around and walked up. In front of him, the road had come to an end. At the end of the road there was a bright ball of light. A secret manual floated in the light. Another secret manual? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Previously, he had already obtained an Earth-level high-grade cultivation technique, and now a secret manual appeared. Could it be a heaven-level secret manual? Lu Ming's heart began to burn. Stretching out his hand, Zhang Xian drew in his Jinqi, and the secret manual fell into his hand. The surface of the secret manual was actually filled with strands of blood, which was extremely strange. He opened the manual and took a look. The myriad spirit battle body was a body refining technique. At its strongest, one could cultivate a 9th grade physical body. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Then he was overjoyed. It was a body refining technique that could cultivate a 9th grade physical body. This was simply a priceless treasure. It was even more precious than a heaven-level martial skill. Haha. I was just thinking about finding a body refining technique. Lu Ming laughed. Then he couldn't wait to read it. However, before he could read a few pages, the world suddenly shook. What's going on? Lu Ming's face changed. Buzz. Suddenly, a beam of light enveloped Lu Ming. Lu Ming felt that the world was spinning. Then he disappeared from the mountain path. At the same time, beams of light also appeared at the foot of the mountain, enveloping everyone. Not only at the foot of the mountain, but the rest of the young people in the ruins of Imperial Yun Palace were also enveloped by the beams of light. After being enveloped by the beams of light, they disappeared in the next moment. After a while, beams of light suddenly appeared in the vast mountains outside Imperial Yun Palace near the Blood Demon Cave. The beams of light dispersed, revealing the figures inside. They were all young people who had entered the ruins of Imperial Yun Palace. He's out. He's out. Let's ask about the situation. Let's see if there are any treasures inside. In the vast mountains, the older generation people shouted. Lu Ming felt that the world was spinning. When he reappeared, he found himself in between two mountains. The golden-eye blood zombie had also followed him out and stood beside him. In the sky, people were flying around. Little bastard, come out and die. Suddenly, a loud roar reverberated through the vast mountains. It was Yang Liuji. He stood in the sky and was filled with killing intent. What's going on? Who is Yang Liuji trying to kill? Many of the older generation people were puzzled. After asking the other young people, they found out that Yang Liuji had suffered a great loss in the ruins of Imperial Yun Palace. The older generation people were shocked. They didn't expect Yang Liuji to suffer a great loss in the hands of the younger generation. Damn it! How dare he steal the treasures from the Great Sun Constabulary? Damn it! Find that little bastard and let him know the consequences of offending the Great Sun Constabulary. Some of the older generation people of the Great Sun Constabulary shouted. A bunch of idiots. In the forest, Lu Ming curled his lips in disdain. Then he ran with the golden-eye blood zombie in the direction of the Blood Demon Cave. He had made an agreement with Xian Yanqing to rush to the Blood Demon Cave as soon as he came out. He wanted to go back to the Blazing Sun Empire through the Blood Demon Cave. If he wanted to go around the Blood Demon Cave, the journey would be more than 10 times longer. Those from the Great Sun Constabulary had never seen him before. How could they find him? Lu Ming successfully dashed across the mountain and came to the vicinity of the Blood Demon Cave. In front of him, a dark red mist filled the air. A graceful figure stood there. Xian Yanqing had arrived. "Let's go in." Lu Ming hollered and dashed in with the golden-eyed blood zombie without hesitation. Xian Yanqing followed closely behind. In the next moment, Lu Ming and the others appeared in the Blood Demon Cave. He looked around, but he didn't see the stone door from last time. Lu Ming took out the demon suppression token and it glowed. Soon, an earth-shattering roar could be heard. The tall figure of the blood demon ran out of the blood mist. Roar! The golden-eye blood zombie roared and its green hair stood on end. It stood in front of Lu Ming and looked at the blood demon with fear in its eyes. Bang! The blood demon stopped nearby, stirring up a gust of wind. He looked at the golden-eyed blood zombie with slight disdain. "All right, it's fine." Lu Ming smiled and sent a thought to the golden-eye blood zombie, telling it to relax. The golden-eye blood zombie relaxed. "Let's go." Lu Ming smiled and jumped on the blood demon's back. Then Xian Yanqing and the golden-eye blood zombie jumped on the blood demon's back. The blood demon roared and ran into the distance. Chapter 290. Shaoqing, there's something I want to tell you. On the blood demon's back, Lu Ming suddenly said to Xian Yanqing. "What's the matter?" Xian Yanqing said coldly. Although she gritted her teeth in hatred for Lu Ming calling her Shaoqing, she had obviously acquiesced to it. "I've seen your sister," Lu Ming said. "What?" Xian Yanqing's pupils suddenly shrank, and a trace of hatred and determination flashed in her eyes. "What did she say to you?" Xian Yanqing stared at Lu Ming and asked. "She asked me to tell you that you shouldn't always think about surpassing her, because it's a waste of time. It's impossible." Lu Ming passed Xian Yanjuan's original words to Xian Yanqing. "She's still so self-righteous." After hearing this, Xian Yanqing gritted her teeth, and a determined look appeared in her eyes. She said, "Isn't it just a natural king bloodline? What's so great about it? Sooner or later, I'll trample her under my feet." When Lu Ming heard this, he couldn't help but touch his nose. This girl really liked to trample others under her feet. At the same time, he was secretly shocked. According to Xian Yanqing's words, Xian Yanjuan actually had a natural king bloodline. That was terrifying. Natural king bloodline meant that the first bloodline awakened was the king bloodline. Without a doubt, this kind of person was a rare demon in the world. His talent was terrifyingly high. No wonder Xian Yanjuan was so powerful back then. With a cultivation of the 6th level martial master, she only relied on an inscription formation to injure a martial ancestor of the Shadow Wolf Pavilion. Lu Ming even suspected that Xian Yanjuan didn't use her full strength at that time. What kind of sister is this? What's her background? Her talent is so amazing. It seems that they don't get along? Lu Ming was secretly curious. However, since Xian Yanqing didn't say anything, he didn't ask. On the back of the blood demon, Qin Lai fell into silence as he headed straight for the Burning Sun Empire. Burning Sun Empire, outside the Blood Domain Devil Cave. 4 silhouettes were standing guard there. These 4 people were the ones Cho Chongkong had told him to stand guard here. It's so unlucky. It's all because of those 2 little bastards that I have to guard this godforsaken place. It's already been more than 10 days. I think those 2 little bastards must have died in there. A burly man scolded unhappily. Although we will definitely die if we enter the Blood Domain Demonic Cave, young Master Chongkong is just taking precautions. Let's wait here for another month. After a month, if there is still no movement, we will leave. A white-haired old man said. He had the highest cultivation level among the 4 of them, having reached the 4th level of the martial ancestor realm. Humph. I really hope that those 2 little bastards aren't dead. If that's the case, I'll make them regret being born into this world. The burly man said sinisterly. But in the next moment, his pupils suddenly widened, revealing a look of disbelief. The other 3 had the same reaction. In the Blood Domain Devil Cave, the blood mist rolled and 3 silhouettes walked out from the blood mist. Who else could it be other than Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing? After more than a day of running, the blood demon carried them and finally arrived at the border of the Blood Domain Devil Cave in the Burning Sun Empire. There was no stone door here. Instead, there was a light door. Stepping through the light door, They were naturally out of the Blood Domain Devil Cave. However, the Blood Demon could not leave with them, but the GoldenEye Blood Zombie could. The GoldenEye Blood Zombie was not from the Blood Domain Devil Cave. To Lu Ming's surprise, as soon as they left the Blood Domain Devil Cave, they met the people from the Shifang Sword faction. Ha ha, those two little bastards are actually still alive? Good good good. Let me take them down and torture them. I'll make them tell me the secret of why they are still alive after entering the Blood Domain Devil Cave. The burly man laughed and his eyes were filled with coldness. The aura of the second level of the martial ancestor realm burst out and suppressed Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. You want to know? Alright, come over here and I'll throw you in. Then you'll know. Lu Ming smiled faintly. You're about to die and you're still trying to win a battle of words. How stupid. Kneel down. The burly man strode forward and pressed his palm toward Lu Ming. Although Lu Ming's combat strength was not bad, he was in the second level of the martial ancestor realm. He was confident that he could suppress Lu Ming with one palm. However, the result was completely out of his expectations. Lu Ming casually stretched out a hand and grabbed his palm. At the same time, an extremely strong wave of genuine qi surged toward his palm. With an unstoppable force, it crushed his genuine qi and entered his arm. Crack! The sound of bones breaking came from his palm. Then the muscles in his arm exploded and his bones broke. His arm was smashed into pieces. Ah! The burly man screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Tears of pain flowed out of his eyes. Bam! Lu Ming kicked the burly man's elixir field and shattered the cyclone in his elixir field. The burly man's cultivation was crippled. The burly man screamed in despair. Your screams are so fucking unpleasant. Don't you want to know why I'm still alive after entering the Blood Demon Cave? Go in and see for yourself. Having said that, Lu Ming swung his arm and threw the burly man into the Blood Demon Cave. No! The burly man screamed in despair. However, in the blink of an eye, his body disappeared. How dare you? You're courting death. At that moment, the remaining 3 people from the Decimo Sword sect came to their senses and shouted. Their eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. The burly man was in the second level of the martial ancestor realm, and he was powerless against Lu Ming. How did Lu Ming become so powerful in just a short period of time? You're the ones who are going to die today. Decimo Sword sect, I'll start with you. Take it as interest. Lu Ming's eyes were cold as he strode toward the remaining 3 people. Arrogant bastard. Don't think that you can be so presumptuous in front of me just because you killed a second-level martial ancestor realm. I'll let you know that the difference between a second-level martial ancestor realm and a fourth-level martial ancestor realm is like heaven and earth. The white-haired old man screamed and his bloodline erupted. He raised his fourth-level martial ancestor realm strength to the maximum. Swoosh! He slashed down with his sword and a boundless sword chi slashed toward Lu Ming. Is that so? Lu Ming sneered and threw out a punch. Boom! A terrifying fist radiance shot out from Lu Ming's fist. It tore through the air and landed on the boundless sword chi. Bam! The sword chi instantly dissipated. The remaining fist radiance did not lose its momentum and landed on the old man's body. The old man screamed in pain and spat out a mouthful of blood. His body flew 1,000 meters away. How can he be so powerful? This person is undefeatable. I have to escape quickly and report this to Master Chong Kong. The white-haired old man was in disbelief as he turned around and ran. When the other 2 saw Lu Ming send the white-haired old man flying with a single punch, they were scared out of their wits. They turned around and flew into the distance. You want to run? How is that possible? Die! Lu Ming shouted coldly and threw out 2 punches in a row. Boom! Boom! The 2 fist radiances tore through the air and flew toward the other 2 people. The 2 of them were only in the first level of the martial ancestor realm, and they could not withstand the attack. 2 screams were heard as the 2 of them exploded in the air. Then Lu Ming stepped into the air and chased after the old man. In a few breaths' time, he caught up with the old man. Chapter 291. Lu Ming activated the 9 Dragons bloodline and devoured the essence blood of the white-haired elder. Then in a flash, Lu Ming took the storage rings of the others. As he took the storage rings, he also devoured all the essence blood. The 4 Grandmaster powerhouses of the Shifang Sword sect were killed by Lu Ming in no time. This was something that Cho Changkong had not expected even in his dreams. Let's go. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Together with Xian Yanqing and the golden-eyed blood zombie, they turned into a beam of light and flew towards the imperial capital. As they flew, Lu Ming refined the essence blood. Let's see if the second bloodline can be upgraded by devouring essence blood. With a thought, Lu Ming transferred all the refined energy of the 9 dragons bloodline to the second bloodline. Instantly, the second bloodline devoured the energy crazily. Lu Ming felt that the 3 silver chakras were shining brightly. The second bloodline was becoming stronger. It's really useful. The second bloodline can be upgraded too. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Heaven-defying. This was too heaven-defying. The 9 dragons bloodline could devour essence blood to upgrade other bloodlines. This was too shocking. The bloodline's grade was no longer important. What was important was that as long as there was essence blood to devour, his bloodline could be upgraded infinitely. Immediately, Lu Ming transferred all the remaining essence blood to the second bloodline. 2 Martial Ancestor Realm LV1, 1 Martial Ancestor Realm LV2, and 1 Martial Ancestor Realm LV4. The combined energy was too strong. If the 9 dragons bloodline devoured the essence blood, it would upgrade instantly. That would attract Xian Yanqing's attention. The 9 dragons bloodline could not be exposed. However, although the essence blood was strong, it was still a drop in the bucket for the second bloodline. Could not upgrade the second bloodline. The amount of essence blood needed to upgrade a level 3 king-class bloodline was terrifying. Xian Yanqing seemed to feel that something was wrong with Lu Ming. However, he just glanced at him casually and did not pay much attention to it. The two of them rushed towards the imperial capital at full speed. With their current cultivation, their speed was much faster than before. In just a little more than half a day, the imperial capital was already in sight. The two of them returned to the imperial capital and rushed to the Star General Hall as fast as lightning. Previously, Lu Ming had already used the 10,000-mile sound transmission talisman to find out that Lu Yuntian had safely returned to the imperial capital and was currently in the Star General Hall. Lu Ming couldn't wait to see Lu Yuntian. Tianyun, you really showed up. Just as Lu Ming's group was about to reach the Star General Hall, a loud shout suddenly rang out. 2 young men appeared in front of Lu Ming. So it's you guys. You guys are really patient. You've been guarding here like dogs. It's been hard on you guys. Seeing the 2 young men, Lu Ming's lips curled into a mocking smile as he mocked. These 2 young men were the 2 genius disciples of the Decimo Sword faction, who had rushed into the Star General Hall to kill Lu Ming. Later on, they had declared that they would block Lu Ming outside the Star General Hall. Who would have thought that after so many days, the 2 of them would still be here? What did you say? You're courting death. The 2 young men were enraged. 2 powerful auras rushed out from their bodies. The aura of a peak second-layer martial ancestor realm spread out like a mountain. The people nearby were all alarmed. What's going on? What happened? Those 2 are gold-ranked disciples of the Decimo Sword faction. The other is Tianyun. I know. Half a month ago, 2 disciples of the Decimo Sword faction rushed into the Star General Hall to kill Tianyun. In the end, they failed and were blocked by the elders of the Star General Hall and the experts of the imperial family. In the end, the disciples of the Decimo Sword faction declared that they would kill Tianyun outside the Star General Hall. There's such a thing? Now that Tianyun is out of the Star General Hall, he's finished. The experts of the Star General Hall have no reason to interfere. Tianyun is in danger. Countless people were attracted by the commotion and surrounded the area, discussing fervently. Tianyun, you should never have said those words. Ever since you said those words, your tragic ending has been decided. Today, I'll let you know what pain is and what it's like to beg for death. One of the Decimo Sword faction disciples had a gloomy expression. Killing intent burst out from his body as if it was real. Lu Ming dared to call them dogs? Damn it, he definitely deserved to die. Who were they? The gold-ranked disciples of the Decimo Sword faction were geniuses who had always been praised. When had anyone dared to talk to them like that? Stop wasting time. If you want to fight, then fight. If not, then scram as far as you can. Lu Ming berated. The surrounding people were stunned. This Tianyun was too domineering. He actually dared to berate the geniuses of the Decimo Sword faction. They were young evolved Jing masters and were incomparably powerful. Many seniors had to be respectful before them. Tianyun, where did his confidence come from? I think Tianyun is going all out. Knowing that he's going to die, he might as well curse to his heart's content. I think so too. That must be it. The surrounding people were discussing. Kill, kill, kill. Tianyun, I'm going to kill you and feed your corpse to the dogs. One of the Decimo sword faction disciples roared. He could no longer suppress the anger in his heart. Chi. The battle sword vibrated, and a terrifying sword light, dazzling and sparkling, slashed toward Lu Ming. Retreat, retreat quickly. The surrounding people were shocked and retreated rapidly. This sword was too terrifying. If they were hit by the aftershock, they would either die or be heavily injured. However, Lu Ming's body was as straight as a mountain. He stood there and did not move. Beside him, Xian Yanqing and Golden-Eye Blood Zombie also stood there motionlessly as if they did not see it. Dumbfounded. Tianyun and the others are dumbfounded. Many people roared in their hearts and came to this conclusion. The sword light was about to cut down Lu Ming's head. At this moment Lu Ming stretched out his palm. His palm glowed and a long spear condensed. Boom! The sword light slashed on Lu Ming's long spear and exploded with an earth-shattering roar. Then, everyone saw that Lu Ming's body did not move at all. Even the corner of his clothes did not flutter. He used the long spear condensed from qi in his hand to block the sword light steadily. The surrounding people were dumbfounded. Lu Ming blocked the sword light from the Decimo sword faction disciple so easily. How was that possible? Could it be that the Decimo sword faction disciple did not use his full strength? The eyes of the Decimo sword faction disciple almost popped out. His heart was in turmoil. Others might not know, but he knew very well that he had used all his strength in that sword light. Last time, Lu Ming fled pathetically under his sword light and did not have the strength to fight back. How long had it been since then? Lu Ming could block his sword light so easily. How was that possible? This is your strength. You haven't changed at all. How disappointing. Lu Ming said with a hint of mockery. Then Lu Ming's long spear shook and the body of the spear vibrated. A terrifying force erupted. Ah! Chapter 292. Hiss! The sound of people sucking in cold air could be heard. Everyone looked at Lu Ming in shock. He was too powerful. The gap between them was too big. The gold-ranked disciple of Decimo sword faction could not resist at all. He was easily suppressed. Previously, those who thought that Lu Ming would definitely die felt their cheeks burning. Lu Ming was not scared out of his wits. He was not courting death. He was confident and powerful. Die! The long spear in Lu Ming's hand turned into a bolt of lightning and shot out like an arrow. Puff! The long spear pierced through the chest of the young man from Decimo sword faction and killed him. Run! The remaining young man was scared out of his wits. He tried to run as far as he could. Who told you could run? Go and accompany your friends. Lu Ming said coldly. Then another long spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand. The long spear pierced through the void and pierced towards the young man. Break! The young man roared and slashed with all his strength. A mighty sword aura slashed toward Lu Ming's long spear. However, the long spear pierced through the sword aura with a swoosh. The long spear did not stop. It was as fast as lightning. No! The young man from Decimo sword faction shouted. Stop! In the distance, an earth-shattering roar suddenly sounded. However, it was too late. Puff! The long spear pierced through the chest of the young man from Decimo sword faction. There was a big hole in his chest. Blood splashed in the air. His body fell to the ground. Swish! At this moment a loud sound broke out. A figure appeared in the air. This figure was also a young man in his 20s. Cho Chonglai. It's Cho Chonglai. Someone exclaimed when they saw this young man. Cho Chonglai was famous in the Burning Sun Empire recently. He had defeated Ling Yanqi, one of the 6 heroes. He was in the limelight for a while. Someone had already said that the 7 heroes of the Burning Sun Empire was because of him. Cho Chonglia's face was gloomy. He stared at Lu Ming and said, You're Tianyun? You actually dared to kill a genius of my 10 Direction sword faction? Do you know how great of a crime you've committed? Do you know that this is a crime punishable by the extermination of 9 generations of your family? Ridiculous. Lu Ming smiled faintly and said, They tried to kill me time and time again, but I can't kill them? I don't care if you're from the 10 Directions Sword Sect or the 9 Directions Sword Sect. Anyone who dares to offend me will be killed. Kill. Kill. The 3 words kill were roared out, reverberating between heaven and earth. They were filled with a sharp killing intent, causing people to feel chills all over. How dare you? You're looking down on my Decimo Sword Sect. You deserve to die. Cho Chonglai shouted. A beam of sword chi shot out from his body and soared into the sky. Kill your sister. If you want to fight, then let's fight. What's with all the nonsense? Now I formally challenge you. Lu Ming roared, his voice rolling out in all directions. Everyone was stunned. Tianyun wanted to challenge Cho Chonglai? Was he crazy? Although his combat strength was powerful, and the 2 young men at the peak of the second martial ancestor realm were powerless against him. However, no one believed that he could defeat Cho Chonglai. Cho Chonglai was a peerless genius secretly cultivated by the Decimo Sword faction. As soon as he was born, he defeated Ling Yanqi, one of the 6 heroes of the Burning Sun Empire. He was extremely powerful and stood at the peak of the younger generation in the Burning Sun Empire. How long had it been since Tianyun rose to power? Not long ago, he was only a martial grandmaster. How could he be a match for Cho Chonglai? Tianyun no. At that moment, a long roar came from afar, and a few figures rushed over. It was Hua Qi and a few elders of the imperial family. A few elders brought Hua Qi and quickly came over. Tianyun, don't be rash. This is the imperial capital. Let's see what Cho Chonglai can do to you. Hua Qi shouted. It was not that he did not believe in Lu Ming. On the contrary, he trusted Lu Ming. He believed that in 1 or 2 years, Lu Ming could surpass the 6 heroes of the Burning Sun Empire. However, he did not believe that Lu Ming could defeat Cho Chonglai. It was too unbelievable. Hua Qi, what are you doing? Don't think that you can stop me because you're a bullshit prince. If you piss me off, I'll kill you too. Now get out of my way. Cho Chonglai looked at Hua Qi and scolded. His tone showed that he did not take Hua Qi seriously. How dare you disrespect the 8th prince? Beside Hua Qi, an old man shouted. Old man, what are you shouting for? So what if I'm disrespectful? What can you do to me? Let me tell you, Tianyun killed the gold grade disciples of the Decimo Sword faction. His crime is unforgivable. No one can save him. Cho Chonglai was extremely arrogant. He looked at Hua Qi and the others coldly. Hua Qi and the other elders' faces turned ugly. Hey, are you done with your nonsense? I just challenged you. If you don't dare to accept my challenge, just say it. Don't change the topic. Lu Ming shouted. Everyone was shocked. Cho Chonglai was arrogant. This Tianyun was even more arrogant than Cho Chonglai. Cho Chonglai's face turned pale. He took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. He said coldly, all right, I accept your challenge. It will be a battle of life and death. Outsiders are not allowed to interfere. Good, that's what I want. I'm afraid that if I accidentally kill you, the old men of the Decimo Sword faction will come to me for revenge. Lu Ming shouted. Ha ha ha, Tianyun, what do you think the Decimo Sword faction is? Don't worry, if you can really kill me, it's because my cultivation is not good enough. The Decimo Sword faction will not pursue the matter. But let me tell you, it's impossible for you to kill me. I will let you know what despair is. Cho Chonglai laughed confidently. His voice spread far and wide. Everyone heard him. All right, let's fight. Lu Ming shouted and took a step forward. He appeared in the air and stood opposite Cho Chonglai. Lu Ming has broken through to the martial ancestor realm. Seeing this, Hua Qi's heart shook, and a trace of surprise appeared in his eyes. Then there was a trace of joy. He knew Lu Ming well. Lu Ming would never fight a battle that he was not confident in. Clang! Cho Chonglai waved his hand and a huge sword flew out. It floated above Cho Chonglai's head and a terrifying sword chi spread out. It filled half the sky. Die! Cho Chonglai roared. His sword vibrated and turned into a terrifying sword radiance that slashed at Lu Ming. The sword radiance was infused with a powerful force. It was the force of the mountain. The Sword Radiance's attack had reached its peak. Compared to him, the 2 gold-level disciples from the Decimo Sword faction were trash. There was no way to compare them. The Sword Radiance slashed down. It was terrifying. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with battle intent. The demon banishing spear appeared in his hand and he thrust it forward. His true chi gathered at the tip of the spear. At the same time, the force of wind and fire gathered and compressed at the tip of the spear. This was the 6th move of the flaming astral spear art, explosion. However, Lu Ming had modified it to fuse the force of wind and fire. The force of wind and fire was condensed to the extreme. Although it had not completely fused, its power was already shocking. Explode! Lu Ming shouted and a terrifying force exploded from the tip of the spear. Chapter 293. Boom! Heaven and earth shook violently as if a sun had exploded in the sky. Terrifying shockwaves swept out in all directions. Those on the ground could see a visible shockwave erupting from the place where the 2 of them clashed in the air. The shockwave spread out rapidly and covered the entire Imperial City in an instant. At that moment, all the experts in the Imperial City were alarmed. They looked at the place where Lu Ming and Cho Chonglai were fighting. Boom! After the shockwave, the 2 figures retreated rapidly and stood 1,000 meters away from each other. They were evenly matched. Whoosh! Instantly the whole place was in an uproar. Lu Ming was able to fight Cho Chonglai head-on, and they were evenly matched. How is that possible? How is that possible? Tell me, am I blind? What I saw just now was not real. You're fucking blind, but I'm not. I saw it too. Oh my god, Tianyun was only a martial grandmaster half a month ago. It's only been half a month, but he's able to fight Cho Chonglai. How is that possible? Isn't that too crazy? I've fucking lived in vain. Everyone's nerves seemed to have been deranged, and they were shouting randomly to vent the shock in their hearts. It was too shocking. This guy. Hua Qi was tongue-tied. He was almost speechless. Beside him, the other elders of the imperial family were also dumbfounded. Damn it, Tianyun, you deserve to die. Cho Chonglai shouted. Cho Chonglai was a genius, but he had been hiding for more than 20 years. His goal was to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. In the end, he did it. He defeated Ling Yanqi, one of the 6 heroes. His name was known all over the world. He enjoyed this kind of glory. He had an ambition. He wanted to climb up and step on the other geniuses. He even wanted to replace Cho Chongkong. But now, he was blocked by Tianyun, who was as weak as an ant. His reputation was not perfect. This was unforgivable, absolutely unforgivable. Boom! Bloodlight flashed on Cho Chonglia's body, and a fierce tiger rushed out. The fierce tiger had a pair of wings on its back, and its aura was soaring to the sky. There was a silver chakra around the fierce tiger, which was extremely dazzling. First-level king-class bloodline. Tianyun, I have the bloodline of a king. I was born to be a king. Die! Cho Chonglai shouted. His aura was extremely strong. His sword light slashed towards Lu Ming again. Natural-born king? The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled up into a sneer. His body shook and a blood-red light rushed out. Following that, a giant stone tablet appeared. The 3 silver chakras on the steel almost blinded the others. Oh heavens, oh earth, what am I seeing? 3 silver chakras? 3rd-level king-grade bloodline? It's actually a 3rd-level king-grade bloodline? How is that possible? Monster, a real monster. The crowd, who had finally calmed down, was once again thrown into chaos. Everyone roared in disbelief. At first Hua Qi was stunned, but in the end he smiled bitterly. He had tried his best to overestimate Lu Ming, but every time, he realized that he was wrong. He had always underestimated Lu Ming. No, this is impossible. Cho Chonglia's eyes almost popped out as he screamed in disbelief. Boom! Lu Ming waved his long spear and blocked Cho Chonglia's sword light. Then he sneered at Cho Chonglai and said, "Why is it impossible? It's just a 3rd-level king-grade bloodline. What's the big deal? What's so surprising about it? You're just a frog at the bottom of a well." There was a 7th-level king-grade bloodline monster standing next to him. Lu Ming really didn't think that a 3rd-level king-grade bloodline was anything special. Kill, kill. So what if you have a third-level king-grade bloodline? You're still going to die today. Qiu Chonglai roared. He was so jealous that he was about to go crazy. In his mind, Tianyun was like an ant. He couldn't forgive him for awakening a third-level king-grade bloodline, which was 2 levels higher than his. He had to kill Lu Ming. He couldn't allow Lu Ming to live in this world. A moment ago, he was so proud of himself, calling himself a natural-born king and looking down on Lu Ming. However, in the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had activated a third-level king-grade bloodline. Qiu Chonglia's bloodline was trash compared to Lu Ming's. This was a slap to his own face. This made him want to kill Lu Ming even more. Buzz! Qiu Chonglia's combat sword vibrated. He became one with his sword and charged toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming shook his long spear and charged toward Qiu Chonglai. Boom! Boom! The two of them engaged in a fierce battle. Qiu Chonglai was indeed powerful. He was far more powerful than the other young experts of his generation. He was at the peak of the third-level martial ancestor realm. His force had reached the great accomplishment. He had also cultivated a lower-class earth-level martial skill to the 4th level. His cultivation technique should also be a lower-class earth-level martial skill. Coupled with his first-level king-grade bloodline, he could kill a martial artist at the peak of the 4th-level martial ancestor realm in one move, let alone a martial artist at the same level as him. He could definitely fight a martial artist at the peak of the 5th-level martial ancestor realm. Lu Ming's cultivation was 1 level lower than Qiu Chonglia's. It wouldn't be easy for him to win. Moreover, Lu Ming didn't use his earth-level martial skill. He wanted to use the force of wind and fire to fight against Qiu Chonglai. He wanted to use Qiu Chonglai to train the force of wind and fire and merge them as soon as possible. Boom! Boom! After dozens of moves, Lu Ming was gradually at a disadvantage. After all, he didn't use his earth-level martial skill. He was at a disadvantage. Tianyun is going to lose. Seems like Qiu Chonglai is stronger. However, Tianyun is already very powerful to be able to fight with Qiu Chonglai to this extent. With Tianyun's bloodline rank, he might be able to surpass Qiu Chonglai in the future. The spectators couldn't help but express their opinions. Hua Qi, who was in the crowd, looked worried. Elders, if Tianyun is no match for them later, no matter what price we have to pay, we must save him. Hua Qi secretly sent a message to the imperial family elders. 8th Prince, don't worry. We will risk our lives to protect young Master Tianyun. The imperial family elders said. Hua Qi was slightly relieved and continued to watch the battle. Haha, Tianyun, go to hell! Qiu Chonglai roared. His aura was like a rainbow. Dazzling sword qi continuously slashed out and he swore to kill Lu Ming with his sword. At this moment, Lu Ming turned a deaf ear to the outside world. He was completely immersed in his own world, the world of wind and fire. Almost there, almost there. Just a little more and the force of wind and fire will merge completely. Just a little more. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The long spear in his hand moved faster and faster. Spear shadows filled the air and the power of each spear shadow increased. In the blink of an eye, dozens of moves had passed. Suddenly, Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly felt that the force of wind and fire had reached a point where the force of wind and fire would merge completely. Success! Lu Ming was overjoyed. Buzz! Lu Ming's long spear shook and the force of wind and fire merged. A terrifying wave of energy exploded and destroyed all of Qiu Chonglia's sword qi. Whoosh! Then the long spear shook and stabbed out like a real dragon. The force of wind and fire merged and exploded. Bang! Qiu Chonglai was no match for Tianyun. It was a one-sided battle. Tianyun, stop. This battle is over. I admit that you're slightly stronger than me. Qiu Chonglai yelled. Stop? Have you forgotten that we agreed to fight to the death? We won't stop until one of us dies. Lu Ming sneered as he walked towards Qiu Chonglai step by step. Qiu Chonglai used his last bit of strength to back off. He yelled, no, you can't kill me. Tianyun, I'm warning you. I'm the peerless genius of the Shifang sword sect. I'm destined to become a peak expert in the future. If you kill me, the Shifang sword sect won't let you go. What a joke. This is a battle of life and death between us. Neither side will pursue the matter. This is the rule of martial arts. If the Decimo Sword sect pursues the matter because of this, it would be breaking the rules of martial arts and making an enemy of all martial artists in the world. I would like to see if the Decimo Sword sect has the ability to do so. Lu Ming sneered. At the same time, he approached Qiu Chonglai with a murderous aura. No, Tianyun, you can't do this. Let me tell you, if you kill me, no one will be able to save you. Don't think that the imperial family can protect you. The imperial family will be destroyed sooner or later. The Shifang Sword sect will unify the Burning Sun Empire sooner or later. By then, there will be no place for you in the Burning Sun Empire. Qiu Chonglai yelled and tried to threaten Lu Ming. Is that so? That's a matter for the future. I'll kill you first. Lu Ming sneered as he approached Qiu Chonglai. He reached out his hand and grabbed Qiu Chonglai. Qiu Chonglai was severely injured. He had no strength to fight back. Lu Ming grabbed his throat. He struggled violently. His eyes were filled with fear and despair. Didn't you say that you'll let me know what despair is? Now you should understand, right? Lu Ming looked at Qiu Chonglai coldly and mocked him. Qiu Chonglai had said to Lu Ming that he would let him know what despair was. Now he understood it himself. Don't kill me. I beg you. I beg you. Qiu Chonglai screamed desperately. He was truly terrified and in despair. All the experts of the Shifang Sword sect had gone back to the sect to discuss something important. He was the strongest in the imperial capital. Therefore, no one would come to save him. Even if they did, it would be useless. However, he didn't want to die. He was a peerless genius with a bright future. He didn't want to die. At this moment, he regretted messing with Lu Ming. Now he understood that there were some people that he couldn't afford to offend. However, it was too late for him to understand. It's too late to beg me now. Lu Ming's eyes flashed coldly. Then his true qi exploded. Bam! Qiu Chonglai exploded in the air. Lu Ming secretly controlled his bloodline to devour Qiu Chonglia's blood essence. Of course, Lu Ming wouldn't let go of Qiu Chonglia's storage ring. Silence! At this moment, the entire imperial capital seemed to have quieted down. Qiu Chonglai was killed by Tianyun. The rising genius who was about to become one of the 7 blazing sun heroes was killed just like that. Too powerful. This Tianyun is too powerful. He's ruthless. I'm afraid the higher-ups of the Shifang Sword sect will go crazy now that Qiu Chonglai is dead. So what if they go crazy? Tianyun and Qiu Chonglai were fighting according to the rules of martial arts. How dare the Shifang Sword sect interfere? Even if they don't interfere, they can do it secretly. That's true. Countless people in the imperial capital were discussing excitedly. Of course, there were also people who sighed. The path of martial arts was cruel. No matter how talented you were, you could die at the hands of a stronger genius. The fall of a genius meant the rise of another. From now on, there would be one more top genius in the Blazing Sun Empire. And that was Tianyun. He really killed Qiu Chonglai? Beside Hua Qi, the imperial family elders were still in disbelief. This is his style. Hua Qi smiled bitterly. Whoosh! Lu Ming moved and appeared beside Hua Qi. Let's go to the Star General Hall. After being delayed by the Shifang Sword sect for so long, Lu Ming couldn't wait to see Lu Yuntian. Chapter 295. When Lu Ming saw Lu Yuntian again, it was in an extremely secretive side hall of the General Hall. Now Lu Yuntian had changed into a new robe, shaved off his beard and combed his hair neatly. A pair of sword-like eyebrows reached his temples and he looked extraordinarily handsome. When Lu Yuntian was young, he was a rare handsome man. However, there was a hideous scar above his nose that extended all the way to his lips, destroying his beauty. However, Lu Yuntian did not care at all. He only looked at Lu Ming in a daze, carefully sizing him up. Ming, are you finally grown up and become a world-renowned genius? As expected of my son, huh? After a while, Lu Yuntian laughed heartily and was very satisfied. During this period of time, Hua Qi had told him all about Lu Ming's achievements. When he heard that Lu Ming had achieved such an achievement, he was extremely excited and gratified. However, Lu Ming's nose was sour and tears welled up in his eyes. He said in a trembling voice, "Father, who did it? Who did it? I will definitely make him pay 10 times the price." He had already checked Lu Yunqian's body in detail just now. Other than the scar on his face, Lu Yunqian's internal injuries were even more serious. Every inch of his meridians were broken, and there was not a single part of his body that was intact. In such a situation, not to mention cultivation, he was even worse than an ordinary person. It was hard to imagine what kind of suffering Lu Yuntian had suffered all these years. Lu Ming felt a terrifying murderous intent in his chest that was about to explode. Lu Yuntian pondered for a moment and said, "Minger, I'll say it again. Don't be rash. Before you have absolute strength, don't let your emotions affect your decisions." "Father, don't worry. Minger knows," Lu Ming said, but his fists were tightly clenched together. "All right, I'll tell you." All of this was done by Cho Chongkong. Lu Yuntian sighed. "Cho Chongkong, it's really him." Lu Ming growled and said, "Why? Father, why did Cho Chongkong do this to you?" "Because of the martial emperor's treasure," Lu Yuntian said. Back then, Cho Chongkong wasn't the leader of the 6 heroes of the Burning Sun Empire, but he was already a famous young genius. I don't know why, but he knew that I had the martial emperor's treasure, so he secretly sent people to capture me. All these years, he has been interrogating me, trying to get information about the martial emperor's treasure from me. Haha, he's dreaming. How could I tell him? It's just a waste of effort. Cho Chongkong, I will make him pay a painful price, Lu Ming muttered in a low voice. His voice was incomparably cold as he continued. The martial emperor's treasure? Why is he so certain that father knows about the martial emperor's treasure? I do know about the martial emperor's treasure. Lu Yuntian smiled. What? Lu Ming was shocked. Haha, I only found out about the martial emperor's treasure by accident. However, I was already prepared for it. I have already left the information regarding the martial emperor's treasure to you. Lu Yuntian smiled. Left for me? Lu Ming was a little stunned. Could it be that bronze pendant? Lu Ming asked. No. Lu Yuntian smiled and said, I only found the bronze pendant by accident. I thought it was quite interesting, so I kept it with me and left it for you. The information regarding the martial emperor's treasure is actually inside the heavenly star sword. The heavenly star sword? Lu Ming was startled. Following this, the heavenly star sword appeared in his hand. Lu Yuntian was overjoyed. He received the heavenly star sword and inspected it carefully. He then passed it to Lu Ming and said, Minger, you're right. The information regarding the martial emperor's treasure is sealed inside the heavenly star sword. There is a key to opening the martial emperor's treasure, and a map inside the heavenly star sword. You can ask an inscriber to retrieve it later. When your cultivation has reached a certain level, you can head to the martial emperor's treasure and obtain a great fortunate encounter. It's inside the heavenly star sword. Lu Ming exclaimed in his heart. Ming-er, how has your mother been all these years? At that instant, Lu Yuntian asked with a trembling voice. Father, mother is fine, but she has been thinking about you all these years. Lu Ming said. That's good. I've let her down all these years. Lu Yuntian sighed. Father, don't worry. The imperial family has already secretly sent someone to pick up mother. Soon our family will be reunited. Lu Ming said. Lu Yuntian's eyes were filled with anticipation. Father, don't worry. Even if I have to travel thousands of mountains and rivers, I will find the elixir to heal your injuries and allow you to embark on the path of cultivation again. Lu Ming said firmly. Minger, it's good that you have such intentions. However, it's easier said than done to heal my injuries. There's no need to force yourself. Lu Yuntian sighed. Many years had passed since his injuries. His meridians were all broken. It would be extremely difficult to heal them. He no longer had any hope. He was already satisfied to be able to see Lu Ming and Li Ping while he was still alive. However, Lu Ming's eyes were filled with determination. The divine wilderness continent was as vast and boundless as smoke. There was no lack of all kinds of treasures. Legend had it that some treasures could even allow a person to regrow their severed limbs and bring the dead back to life. As long as he could obtain such treasures, it would be a piece of cake to heal Lu Yuntian's meridians and remove the scars on his face. No matter how difficult it is, I must get it. Lu Ming swore to himself. After that, he had a long talk with Lu Yuntian. After chatting for a few hours, Lu Ming left the place. Regardless of whether he wanted to avenge Lu Yuntian or heal Lu Yuntian's injuries, he couldn't do so without a strong cultivation base. He had to keep cultivating. Cho Chongkong, you and I will fight to the death. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with murderous intent. After returning to his room, Lu Ming sat down cross-legged and carefully thought about the direction of his cultivation. Currently, he had a few main directions for his cultivation. The first was the breakthrough of the true dragon of battle art. He had obtained the Jiao Dragon Bone Pearl from Xian Yanqing. As long as he could obtain a supplementary material called the Cold Spirit Liquid, he would be able to break through to the 5th level of the true dragon of battle art and possess 6 times the strength of ordinary true qi. The second was the cultivation of the myriad spirit battle body. As long as his physical body reached the 4th grade, he would be able to cultivate the divine martial technique, the 9 dragons heaven stomping steps. Alright, let's go and buy a portion of the cold spirit liquid. Lu Ming stood up and walked towards the market of the imperial capital. The cold spirit liquid was only a supplementary material and was not particularly rare. After walking around the market, Lu Ming successfully bought a portion. After returning to the Star General Hall and entering the Temple of Paragon, Lu Ming took out the Jiao Dragon Bone Pearl and the cold spirit liquid and started cultivating. First, he refined the Jiao Dragon Bone Pearl and mixed it with the cold spirit liquid. Half a day later, he successfully broke through to the 5th level of the true dragon of battle art. Surging true qi flowed through his meridians. It was vast and boundless. Lu Ming's combat strength had increased by a large margin. If I can cultivate the true dragon of battle art to the 9th level, I will have 10 times the true qi. How powerful will that be? Lu Ming was looking forward to it. He hoped that he could cultivate the true dragon of battle art to the 9th level as soon as possible. With 10 times the true qi, Lu Ming would be invincible among those of the same level, unless his opponent also cultivated a divine martial technique. Now let's do an inventory. Lu Ming let out a long breath and waved his hand. A pile of storage rings appeared on the ground. Chapter 296. Although he didn't kill many people in the ruins of Emperor Yun's palace, his opponents had killed many people. Which one of the people he killed didn't have a few lives on their hands? Therefore, he sorted out the storage rings, and there were more than 200 of them. Most of the storage rings belonged to young geniuses in the 8th or 9th realm of the martial master realm, but there were also dozens of storage rings belonging to martial grandmasters. There were even storage rings belonging to peerless geniuses like Cho Chonglai, Blood Zhao, and Supernova Zhao Hong. Lu Ming was looking forward to the wealth in the storage rings. He wouldn't have known if he hadn't seen it. Even though Lu Ming was mentally prepared, he was still dumbfounded. Spiritual crystals. Mountains of spiritual crystals. One storage ring wouldn't be able to store all of them. There were a total of 55,560,000 spiritual crystals. More than 50 million? What kind of terrifying number was this? Lu Ming was in a daze. Holding back his ecstasy, Lu Ming put away the spiritual crystals in several storage rings and looked at other things. There were more than 4,000 spiritual weapons. There were more than 12,000 spiritual herbs and spiritual herbs. However, most of them were not very advanced. Only a few of them had reached LV4. There were also more than 200 cultivation methods and martial techniques. There were also various refining materials piled up like mountains. Lu Ming was rich. He was rich. Apart from the 5 top sects and the royal family, the other small forces in the Burning Sun Empire wouldn't have so much wealth even if they sold all their assets. Lu Ming sighed. Half an hour later, Lu Ming put all the items into his storage ring and put them away. Afterward, with a move, the 10,000 Spirit Battle Body Manual appeared in Lu Ming's hands. Lu Ming flipped it open and studied it carefully. An hour later, Lu Ming closed the storage ring. The 10,000 Spirit Battle Body is so terrifying and mysterious. Lu Ming was amazed. The 10,000-mile battle body refined all the spirits in the world and merged them into the body to improve the strength of the body. All living things, as long as they had spirituality in the world, were fine. For example, all kinds of spiritual herbs, or all kinds of metal materials and ores that contain spiritual essence could be refined into the all-spirits qi to cultivate the physical body. It was to the extent where even living creatures could do it. could be said to be terrifying, as expected of a technique that can cultivate one's physical body to the 9th tier. How domineering! Lu Ming exclaimed in surprise and excitement. After that, Lu Ming closed his eyes and began to comprehend. For 3 days in a row, Lu Ming was comprehending the myriad spirit battle body. Tens of thousands of miles away from the imperial capital, there was an endless stretch of mountains that resembled a fairyland. This was the location of the omnidirectional sword sect, the omnidirectional mountain. More than a dozen people sat in a large hall at the highest point of 10 Directions Mountain. Every single one of them was just casually sitting there. Yet they were emitting an aura that was as vast as the mountains and seas. It was vast and unfathomable. The sect master of 10 Directions Sword Sect, Qiu Wuyang, sat at the highest point, his face extremely gloomy. The atmosphere in the hall was extremely stifling. Bam! Suddenly, a cold-faced old man slammed the table heavily and said loudly, "Tianyun, that brat deserves to die. How dare he kill a peerless talent of our omnidirectional sword sect? Sect master, please allow me to personally kill Tianyun." "That's not right." Another voice sounded. Tianyun and Chang Lai were having a life-and-death battle. Countless people in the imperial capital saw it. If we kill Tianyun like this, I'm afraid we'll incur the wrath of the martial arts world. Then we can send assassins to assassinate him. The cold-faced old man said. Tianyun's matter is small. Our plan is more important. I don't think we should let a single Tianyun affect our plan. The first person said again. The hall fell into silence again. After a while, Qiu Wuyang said, "Let's act according to our plan first. As long as everything goes smoothly, Tianyun won't be able to escape death. After killing a talent of our omnidirectional sword sect, he can't possibly live in this world. But let's put it aside for now. Now let's discuss the details of this matter." No one objected to Qiu Wuyang's words. Next, they began to discuss an important matter. In the Temple of Paragon, Lu Ming had been comprehending the myriad spirit battle body for 3 days. 3 days later, he opened his eyes. With a wave of his hand, a 2nd-grade spiritual herb appeared in his hand. "Refine," Lu Ming said softly, following which, the vital energy in his body vibrated mysteriously according to the 10,000 spirit battle body. A gush of dense qi emanated from Lu Ming's palm and enveloped the spiritual herb. In a few breaths, the spiritual herb disappeared and was refined into a strange qi that entered Lu Ming's body. This was the myriad spirit qi. As soon as the myriad spirit qi entered Lu Ming's body, it seeped into Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming could clearly feel that his physical body was becoming stronger. Although the increase was small, it was indeed becoming stronger. It was many times faster than ordinary physical body cultivation techniques. Amazing, this is amazing. Lu Ming was amazed and his eyes were filled with excitement. Then, he took out another 3rd-grade spiritual herb and began to transform it into the myriad spirit qi to enhance his physical body. In the next 3 days, Lu Ming continued to refine spiritual herbs to enhance his physical body. In these 3 days, he had refined no less than 200 spiritual herbs. Finally, his physical body broke through the limit and reached the 4th-grade physical body. The 4th-grade physical body was amazing. Lu Ming could change his muscles, bones, and body shape at will. When he was injured, his muscles would squirm automatically to seal the wound and heal it quickly. His muscles were like steel wires, his bones were like steel, and his veins were wide and elastic. Lu Ming could unleash his strength without restraint. This was a great improvement to his combat strength. Now that my physical body has reached the 4th grade, I can finally start cultivating the 9 Dragons' Heaven Stomping Steps. Lu Ming could not wait to take out the 9 Dragons' Heaven Stomping Steps and start comprehending it. The pressure from the secret manual was no longer a problem for Lu Ming. But after a while, he closed the 9 Dragons' Heaven Stomping Steps and frowned. Because he was completely confused, he did not know where to start. It was too difficult to cultivate a divine-level martial technique. A divine-level martial technique was completely different from the heaven, earth, black, and yellow-level martial techniques. A divine-level martial technique was not divided into a 1st grade, a 2nd grade, and so on. A divine-level martial technique was very special. Every type was unique between heaven and earth. There would be various differences and it was difficult to explain. Take the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps as an example. The 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps had a total of 9 steps. With each step completed, the power would be stronger and stronger. With each step, the power would be stacked. If the 9 steps were completed, the power would be stacked and could crush mountains and break the sky. The power would be extremely terrifying. As long as the first step of the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps was completed, the full power of the first step would be unleashed. At the same time as the cultivation increased, the power would be stronger. Unfortunately, it was too difficult to cultivate. Lu Ming tried to comprehend it for a while but had no clue. It seems that I have to take my time to comprehend it. As long as I put in more effort, I don't believe that I can't cultivate it successfully. Lu Ming gritted his teeth and thought to himself. Next, after comprehending the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps for a while, he started cultivating the myriad spirit battle body. He had countless spiritual herbs and spiritual medicine with him. He was not worried about not having enough spiritual herbs to cultivate. Chapter 297. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had been in seclusion for a month. In the past month, his body had improved the fastest. After using a total of 3,000 different types of spiritual herbs, Lu Ming's physical body reached 5th grade in one go. However, after reaching grade 5, the effects of grade 1 and grade 2 spiritual herbs were very poor. Only grade 3 spiritual herbs were effective. Grade 4 spiritual herbs were even better. However, Lu Ming did not have many grade 4 spiritual herbs. There were still more than 8,000 stalks of spirit herbs on Lu Ming's body. However, he had a feeling that even if he refined all of them, he would not be able to cultivate his physical body to a 6th grade. The higher the level of the body, the more energy it would require. Moreover, after reaching the martial grandmaster realm, his comprehension of martial skills would be much faster. After a month of hard work and constant battles with himself, Lu Ming's martial skills had improved tremendously. He had reached the 6th level of the ancient shield technique, and could form 6 ancient shields at once. His defense had greatly increased. As for the 3 path palms, he had mastered the 2nd palm, the beast path palm. When he threw out a palm, a giant beast palm was thrown out. Its power was much stronger than the human path palm. The reason why he could improve so quickly was because of the 3rd platform. Of course, he had paid over 600,000 spiritual crystals for it. Given Lu Ming's 2nd level martial grandmaster cultivation, he would need a total of 10,000 spirit crystals each time he wanted to condense a figure that was exactly the same as him. He could last for 6 hours each time. The consumption was shocking. If Lu Ming did not have over 50 million spiritual crystals, he would not be able to afford it. At this moment, Lu Ming's strength had reached its peak. Although his cultivation was still at the early stage of martial grandmaster realm 2nd level, he could kill Cho Chonglai with one move. On the other hand, Li Ping had arrived at the imperial capital half a month ago, and met Lu Yuntian. When they met, they were very affectionate. They stayed together every day and did not want to be separated. During this time, Xian Yanqing had been cultivating in seclusion. As for the golden-eyed blood zombie, Lu Ming ordered it to lie dormant in one place and not move. On this day, Hua Qi hurriedly found Lu Ming and brought a piece of shocking news. The Yin Moon Empire sent out millions of soldiers to attack the Burning Sun Empire. The Ghost Moon Saber sect in the north had already requested help from the Blazing Sun Empire. The 2 armies of the royal family at the northern border also requested help from the royal family. For a moment, the Burning Sun Empire was shocked. Although the Dark Moon Empire and the Burning Sun Empire had been in constant conflict, it was rare for the Dark Moon Empire to send an army of 1 million to attack the Burning Sun Empire. Lu Ming, this time the imperial family will send out an elite army, as well as some young experts that the imperial family has been secretly cultivating to the north. On the one hand, it will promote the imperial family's prestige, and on the other hand, it will train these young experts. However, you also know that all geniuses are arrogant and unruly. No one is willing to submit to another. Father wants to choose someone to be the commander of this army and subdue these young experts at the same time. But after thinking about it, only you are suitable. Hua Qi said to Lu Ming. Me? Lu Ming was surprised. Yes, there is no one more suitable than you. To tell you the truth, some of these young experts are geniuses from the Star Cluster Palace, while others are peerless geniuses that the imperial family has secretly recruited. They were sent to the Great Sun Palace in the Bloodjiao Empire to cultivate. They are all arrogant and ordinary people can't subdue them. Hua Qi explained with a bitter smile. However, father said that he won't force you. If you don't want to go, he will find someone else. Hua Qi said. Go, why not? Lu Ming smiled. After being in seclusion for so long, he wanted to go out and temper himself. The battlefield was undoubtedly the best place to temper himself. Lu Ming, you agree? That's great. I will go back and report to father. If there are no accidents, we will depart in 2 days. Hua Qi was overjoyed. Lu Ming nodded. Then Hua Qi bid farewell and left. I will also go and say goodbye to father and mother. Then Lu Ming went to Lu Yuntian's residence. After hearing the news, Lu Yuntian and Li Ping did not object. A cultivator must go through a series of life and death situations to reach the peak. Ming'er, go ahead. Lu Yuntian was very supportive. In the past, Lu Yuntian was a member of the Lu family, but in order to pursue the martial Dao, he often went out to explore and accidentally discovered the secret of the martial emperor's treasure. Ming'er, the battlefield is very dangerous, you must be careful. Although Li Ping did not object, she was still worried and warned seriously. Father, mother, don't worry. Ming'er will be fine. Lu Ming smiled and assured his parents. Very quickly 2 days passed. 2 days later, Lu Ming brought the Golden Eye Blood Zombie to the martial field of the Star General Hall. The army was gathered here today. Lu Ming, don't think of leaving me. Xian Yanqing appeared beside Lu Ming. Shaoqing, what's wrong? You can't bear to leave me? Lu Ming chuckled. Who can't bear to leave you? I'm afraid that you'll run away or die on the battlefield. Who can I find to settle the score with? How can I trample you under my feet? Xian Yanqing snorted coldly. Haha, then come with me. But I heard that it's cold in the north. You have to warm my bed at night. Lu Ming laughed and walked forward. Warm your head. In your dreams. Xian Yanqing's fierce voice rang out as the two walked further and further away. Rows of armored soldiers stood in front of the martial field of the Star General Hall. These soldiers were all tall and burly, exuding a powerful and murderous aura. At a glance, one could tell that they were all elite soldiers, veterans who had been baptized by the flames of war. There were a total of 20,000 soldiers. The sun shone on the armor of the 20,000 soldiers, shining with a cold light. At the top of the martial field stood dozens of people. Most of them were young men in their 20s. Each and every one of them had a strong and vigorous aura. The weakest among them was at the 9th level of the martial Grandmaster realm. There were 10 young men whose auras were as strong as mountains. They were clearly martial ancestor realm experts. Among the 10, 7 were the strongest in the Star Cluster Hall, equivalent to the gold-ranked disciples of the 5 major sections. As for the remaining 3, their auras were the strongest. As they looked around, they faintly exuded arrogance. They were the geniuses sent by the royal family to the Great Sun Palace. In the middle stood the emperor of the Blazing Sun Empire, Hua Zhongxing. Beside Hua Zhongxing stood Hua Qi, your majesty. Who is our commander? Why isn't he here yet? He even made his majesty wait here. How arrogant! A young man cultivating in the Great Sun Palace said unhappily. That's right. I think he doesn't put his majesty in his eyes at all. In my opinion, we should just remove him from his position and let senior brother Hua Ying be the commander. Another young man cultivating in the Great Sun Palace said. The Hua Ying he was referring to was a young man in a golden robe. The last young man cultivating in the Great Sun Palace. This person was handsome and had the aura of a king. He was a member of the Hua family of the royal family, but he wasn't a direct descendant. As long as no one died, he would not care. Now, if any of you are unconvinced, feel free to make a move. Gao Li was incomparably arrogant as he swept his gaze over everyone in the Star Cluster Hall. The faces of the people from the Star Cluster Hall turned ugly. They could not help but look at the bald young man in the middle. The bald youth was the #1 expert in the Star Cluster Hall. He had a cultivation of martial ancestor realm level 2. I'll take you on. The bald young man stepped out and stood opposite Gao Li. Boom. There was nothing more to say. A great battle erupted. It had to be said that Gao Li was indeed very powerful. Although the bald youth was at the same level as him, he was not a match for him at all. In just a dozen moves he was sent flying and coughing up blood. As expected, a bunch of trash. Still not admitting it? I can only say that you guys haven't seen the world and haven't seen the geniuses of big countries. You think that staying in a small corner of the world and having a little bit of success you guys can be complacent? How short-sighted. How can you improve like this? Gao Li had his hands behind his back as he looked down at the people of the Star Cluster Hall, berating them with the tone of a senior lecturing a junior. Damn it! Where did these guys come from? How can they be so strong? The faces of the people from the Star Cluster Hall were flushed red as they roared in their hearts. Gao Li let out a disdainful sneer and said, Senior brother Hua Ying is many times stronger than me. Why are you guys not convinced that he is the commander-in-chief? Of course not. What right does a guy who has stayed in a big country for a while think that he is a genius and came back to show off his strength have to be the commander-in-chief? At that moment a faint voice was heard. Who is it? Gao Li's face instantly turned ugly. Hua Ying's face also darkened. When Hua Qi heard the voice, a look of joy flashed across his face. The owner of the voice was of course Lu Ming. Lu Ming had his hands behind his back. Beside him were Xian Yanqing and the Golden Eye Blood Zombie. He walked over step by step. Kid, who are you? How dare you talk to me like that? Gao Li stared at Lu Ming with a gloomy look. It's Tinyan. Before Lu Ming could speak, the young experts from the Star Cluster Hall could not help but exclaim. Lu Ming smiled and said, Who am I? I am the commander-in-chief this time. Why aren't you kneeling and saluting when you see the commander-in-chief? Don't you know the military law? Commander-in-chief? You're the commander-in-chief? Ridiculous, ridiculous, I don't accept it. Gao Li shouted, then turned to salute Hua Zhangxing and shouted, Your Majesty, the commander-in-chief this time is no small matter. How can you let such a young boy be the commander-in-chief? I don't accept it. Hua Zhangxing's face was calm, and no expression could be seen. He said, Tianyun is someone I have my eyes on. What's there to be unhappy about? Your Majesty, the commander-in-chief position is no small matter. Only the capable can occupy it. If an incompetent person is the commander-in-chief, it will harm tens of thousands of soldiers. Gao Li said, I agree that Tianyun is the commander-in-chief. I accept Tianyun as the commander-in-chief. Suddenly, a young man from the Star Cluster Hall exclaimed, I also agree that Tianyun is the commander-in-chief. I also agree, I accept it. The other young men from the Star Cluster Hall also spoke. Tianyun had killed Chou Chonglai some time ago. His strength was incomparably powerful, and they were wholeheartedly convinced. However, Gao Li and the others had just returned from the Bloodjiao Empire, and had never heard of Tianyun's name. At this time, Gao Li's face was extremely gloomy as he said coldly, A bunch of frogs at the bottom of a well. They have never seen a real genius, so they can only treat trash as a genius. Then, he looked at Lu Ming and said, Kid, if you want to be the commander-in-chief, you have to be capable. I would like to see what kind of ability you have. Then, a powerful aura spread out from his body as he slowly approached Lu Ming. You talk too much nonsense. Hurry up and make your move or you won't have the chance. Lu Ming said with a smile. Arrogant. Gao Li was furious. He shouted and threw a punch at Lu Ming. The powerful fist force almost penetrated the void. He had used all his strength in this punch, and he was determined to teach Lu Ming an unforgettable lesson. However, Lu Ming ignored his fist force. He took a step forward and the ground cracked. Lu Ming's figure appeared in front of Gao Li in an instant, and he kicked out. This kick landed directly on Gao Li's stomach. Bam! Gao Li screamed in pain as he was sent flying by Lu Ming's kick. He flew over 1,000 meters away and crashed heavily into a huge rock. Everyone present was dumbfounded, including the elites from the Star Cluster Hall and the 20,000 troops present. Although they knew that Lu Ming was strong, the visual effect was too shocking. A genius in martial ancestor realm second realm was sent flying by Lu Ming's kick. Is this what it means to have cultivated in a big country? A genius who has seen the world? Not much. Lu Ming slowly withdrew his foot and said indifferently. Hua Qi could not help but burst out laughing. Chapter 299. On the other hand, Hua Ying was the opposite. He clenched his fists and a ferocious look appeared in his eyes. Bam! He took a step forward and a ferocious aura burst out from his body. It was terrifying and vast. Third-level martial ancestor realm, and he was in the late stage of it. Tianyun, right? Just now you merely used your movement technique to avoid Gao Li's attack. You only managed to win in one move when Gao Li was caught off guard. What's so great about that? In my opinion, it's merely a despicable and shameless trick. Otherwise, how could you have seriously injured Gao Li in one move with your second-level martial ancestor cultivation? Hua Ying stared coldly at Lu Ming. Oh, is that so? Lu Ming smiled and did not bother to explain. However, it won't work in my hands. I'll show you what true strength is. Hua Ying's eyes were filled with confidence. He was indeed talented. He was only 25 years old, and he had already reached the late stage of the third-level martial ancestor realm. Even in the Bloodjiao Empire where geniuses were everywhere, he was considered a top genius and was only weaker than the 50th Bloodjiao superstar. In the Burning Sun Empire, other than the 6 heroes of the Burning Sun Empire, he did not believe that anyone among the younger generation could be his match. Therefore, he did not take Lu Ming seriously at all. 3 moves. I'll defeat you in 3 moves. If I can't defeat you, I'll let you be the commander-in-chief. Hua Ying placed his hands behind his back and said arrogantly. Lu Ming shook his head and smiled. He then slowly extended a finger. 1 move. Haha, it seems like you're not confident in yourself. Do you think I can defeat you in 1 move? Hua Ying laughed. No, you've misunderstood. Lu Ming shook his head and said, I mean, I'll defeat you in 1 move. What? What did you say? Defeat me in 1 move? Ha ha ha. Hua Ying was stunned at first and thought that he had misheard. Then he burst out laughing. Defeat me in 1 move? Even the 6 heroes of the Burning Sun Empire wouldn't dare to say that. How arrogant of you. I'd like to see how you can defeat me in 1 move. Boom! A terrifying aura exploded from Hua Ying's body, and a ray of sword chi shot into the sky. At the same time, his bloodline also erupted. A silver chakra was extremely dazzling. Hua Ying's second bloodline was also a first-tier king-class bloodline. She almost had the potential of the 6 heroes of the Burning Sun tribe. Slash! Hua Ying held the battle sword with both hands and raised it up high. A huge sword that was 100 meters long was formed and stood between heaven and earth. The 20,000-strong army was horrified. If you want to fight, then let's fight. What's the use of all these tricks? Lu Ming curled his lips and struck out with his palm. A huge beast claw condensed in the sky and pressed down on Hua Ying's huge sword. This beast claw was more than 20 meters long and wide, like a small mountain. It was covered with black scales, looking extremely ferocious. The second of the 3 Dao palms, the beast Dao palm. Bang! Hua Ying's giant sword crumbled like a bubble under the beast Dao palm. The beast claw did not stop and continued to press down on Hua Ying. How could this be? Hua Ying let out an incredulous roar. She kept slashing with her battle sword, sending out streaks of sword chi towards the beast claw. However, it was useless. The streaks of sword chi collapsed one after another, and the beast claw continued to press down on Hua Ying. Bang! A cloud of dust filled the air. Hua Ying was pressed down by the beast claw and slammed into the ground. After a while, the beast claw disappeared and a 20-meter-long beast claw print appeared on the ground. Hua Ying was lying in the middle of the print, twitching and foaming at the mouth. Tragic, it was too tragic. Lu Ming had shown mercy. Otherwise, he would have been smashed into minced meat with 1 slap. Great! Tianyun is invincible. After a long silence, a loud roar came from the army. Lu Ming looked around and saw Ming Peak in the army. The roar just now was from Ming Peak. Who else could it be but Pearl and Myeongcheng beside Ming Peak? Tianyun is invincible. Ming Peak continued to roar. Then Pearl and Myeongcheng followed suit. Soon the others seemed to be infected and started to roar as well. The army of 20,000 broke out into earth-shattering roars that shook the sky. In the end, even the geniuses of the Star Cluster Palace followed suit and roared. Lu Ming raised his hand and the whole place suddenly quieted down. Everyone, this time, I am indebted to His Majesty for letting me be the commander-in-chief of this army. I, Tianyun, hereby swear that as long as everyone believes in me, I will do my best to lead everyone to achieve great things. Lu Ming's clear voice spread throughout the whole place. Achieve great things, achieve great things. The army of 20,000 roared. On the high platform, Hua Zhengxing stroked his beard and looked at Lu Ming with admiration in his eyes. How could this be? How could this be? At this time Hua Ying and Gao Li had already struggled to get up. However, their eyes were full of disbelief. All right, Gao Li, Hua Ying, step forward and listen to my orders. Hua Zhengxing suddenly let out a shout. Your Majesty! Hua Ying and Gao Li bowed. Now Tianyun is the commander-in-chief. Are you convinced? Hua Zhengxing asked. Both of them hesitated for a moment before answering. Lu Ming could see that the two of them were persuading him verbally, but they were not convinced in their hearts. However, Lu Ming did not care. He did not care about the two of them at all. All right, since that is the case, then prepare the army and set off immediately, Hua Zhengxing announced. Not long after, the 20,000-strong army, each of them riding a tall green scale horse, left the imperial capital and headed north. The army of 20,000 formed a long dragon, stomping on the ground with a rumbling sound. Lu Ming was also riding on a tall and majestic green scale horse. He rode at the front, followed by Xian Yinqing, Golden-Eye Blood Zombie, and Miangcheng and his siblings. Behind them were Hua Ying and the other young geniuses. Miangcheng, why are you here too? Lu Ming asked curiously along the way. Because the general of Full Moon City is our father. Ming Peak rushed to answer. No wonder. Lu Ming suddenly understood. The place they were going to support was Full Moon City. Although the imperial capital was weak and declining, the northern border with the Yingyue Empire was an important military area. The imperial capital still had two powerful armies guarding it that obeyed the imperial capital's orders. One of the armies was the Mountain Suppression Army, and the other was the Northern Suppression Army. Both armies were elite, battle-hardened armies. Each army had 100,000 soldiers. They were one of the few elite armies of the imperial capital. Miangcheng, Pearl, and the other's father was the general of the Mountain Suppression Army, Ming Meng. This time, the Ghost Moon Saber sect was the first to bear the brunt of the million troops of the Yingyue Empire. The Mountain Suppression Army and the Northern Suppression Army were also affected. They engaged in an intense battle with the Yingyue Empire. The Mountain Suppression Army was having a hard time and asked for help from the imperial capital. This time, Lu Ming and the others were going to support the Mountain Suppression Army. Therefore, Miangcheng and his siblings naturally followed. Along the way, Miangcheng and his siblings were very worried. They were afraid that something bad would happen to their father. Naturally, the army could not be compared to Lu Ming flying in the air. Their speed was much slower. It was a long spear that was condensed from genuine qi. Clang! The long spear stabbed the black-robed man with the golden moon's long sword, and there was a violent vibration. The black-robed man with the golden moon trembled, and his body could not help but fly to one side. Lu Ming moved, and in the next moment, he swept past Hua Ying and headed towards the black-robed man with the golden moon. Hua Ying looked at Lu Ming with a complicated expression. Just now, it was Lu Ming who had saved him. Who are you? The black-robed man with the golden moon let out a low roar. The power of Lu Ming's move had exceeded his expectations. With his cultivation of the martial ancestor realm's sixth realm, he had been forced to retreat, which shocked him. Tianyun. Lu Ming replied indifferently. The black-robed man with the golden moon's pupils suddenly contracted, and he said in a low voice, So you are Tianyun? You know me? You are sent by the Yin Moon Empire, right? Lu Ming's eyes flickered and he asked, So what if I know you? I'm here to send you to the west today. The black-robed man with the golden moon sneered, and with the sound of his sword, he became one with the sword, and turned into a sword radiance, attacking Lu Ming. Swoosh! Lu Ming's long spear shook, and he thrust it forward. The spear was wrapped in the power of wind and fire, and the power of wind and fire completely merged. Bang! The long spear and the sword radiance collided. A strong shock wave spread out, and the black-robed man with the golden moon groaned, and his body flew back like a cannonball. How can he be so strong? As he flew back, the black-robed man with the golden moon roared in his heart. He could see that Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the 2nd realm martial ancestor realm, and he was at the 6th realm martial ancestor realm. However, in the end he was sent flying by the 2nd realm martial ancestor realm. How could this be? How could such a thing happen in the world? Chapter 301. Huang was equally horrified. He had just experienced how terrifying the black-robed man was. He knew that he was no match for him. It was already a miracle that he was able to avoid the assassination. But now, the black-robed man with the golden moon was actually sent flying by Lu Ming with a single move. The impact on him was simply too great. Lu Ming did not care what others thought. After he sent the gold moon black-robed man flying with one move, he took a step forward and charged toward the gold moon black-robed man. At the same time he threw out a palm. Boom! In the sky, a huge beast palm slammed down on the black-robed man. The black-robed man roared and tried his best to resist, but it was useless. He was defeated by the beast palm and his body fell rapidly. At this moment Lu Ming had arrived. He thrust out his long spear with the power of wind and fire and pierced the black-robed man's heart. The black-robed man let out a desperate roar before he died. He had never dreamed that Lu Ming would be so powerful. Wasn't the news that he had received about the same level as the 6 Burning Sun heroes? But apart from Qiu Chongkong, the rest of the 6 Burning Sun heroes were only at the peak of the 5th Martial Grandmaster realm. He was at the 6th Martial Grandmaster realm, but he was easily killed by Lu Ming. Was this still the combat strength of the 6 Burning Sun heroes? His combat strength was close to that of the geniuses on the Emperor roll. This was the black-robed man's last thought before he died. He was unwilling and confused. Devour. After killing the black-robed man, Lu Ming controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline to devour the black-robed man's essence blood. The 9 dragons' bloodline started to refine the essence blood. 9 red chakras flashed on Lu Ming's body. They were so fast that no one noticed them. That's right, 9 red chakras. Previously, in the ruins of Emperor Yun's palace, he had obtained 9 blood essences of Class 6 LV4 demonic beasts, which were equivalent to the 6th Martial Grandmaster realm. Lu Ming had refined them all in the Imperial City and turned them into bloodline energy. 9 blood essences of Class 6 Martial Grandmaster realm. How terrifying was that? The 9 dragons bloodline was directly upgraded to common level 9. One more step and it would become a king bloodline. However, to advance from the mortal class to the king class was extremely difficult. Who knew how much essence blood would be required? Whoosh! Lu Ming continued to refine the blood essence as he charged in other directions. In that direction, a martial ancestor realm level 2 assassin was fighting with a young man. That young man was a genius of the Star Cluster Hall. At that moment he was surrounded by danger and could lose his life at any moment. Whoosh! Lu Ming rushed over and stabbed out with his spear. The assassin did not even have the strength to resist and was killed. His blood essence was completely devoured by the 9 dragons bloodline. At this time, screams could be heard from other places. The golden-eyed blood zombie was simply unstoppable. His body flickered, and one of the assassins was torn to shreds. In just a short while, 7 assassins had died at the hands of the golden-eyed blood zombie. Xian Yanqing wasn't much worse. With a wave of her hand, the killer couldn't resist at all, and his head was inexplicably cut off. For people had died in her hands. Retreat, retreat. The other party is too strong. It doesn't match the information we received. The remaining 10 or so killers screamed in panic and wanted to retreat. Where do you think you're going? Kill them. The army was alarmed. Countless soldiers rushed out and surrounded the 10 or so killers. Since you're here, don't even think about leaving. Lu Ming floated in the air, and his killing intent was like a tide. Then whoosh, whoosh. Lu Ming waved his hands continuously and long spears condensed one after another. Each long spear condensed the combined power of wind and fire. They transformed into a flaming light and shot toward the killers who were fleeing. Ah! Ah! Continuous screams were heard. They couldn't resist, they couldn't resist. The strongest of the remaining killers was only at the martial ancestor realm level 3. No matter what they did, it was useless. They were pierced by Lu Ming's long spears and nailed to the ground. In the blink of an eye, the remaining 10 or so killers were all killed. No one was lucky enough to survive. Everyone present, including the army of 20,000 and the young experts, suddenly quieted down. Then there was an earth-shattering roar. The general is invincible. The general is invincible. The roar of the army of 20,000 was particularly loud in the middle of the night. It was so loud that the demonic beasts didn't dare to make a sound. At this moment, the army of 20,000 was sincerely convinced by Lu Ming. Lu Ming's invincible power had subdued them. On the other side, Huang looked at Lu Ming with a complicated expression. Then he gritted his teeth and flew toward Lu Ming. At the same time, Gao Li and another young man who was cultivating in the Great Sun Constabulary flew toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming looked at the three of them in surprise. Brother Tianyun, no general, I was blind before and offended you. I didn't expect you to forgive me and save my life. From now on my life belongs to you. No matter if it's climbing a mountain of swords or diving into a pot of boiling oil, as long as you say it, I won't refuse. General Senior Brother Hua Ying's words are also my words. Gao Li will obey your words. Me too. Gao Li and the other young man said loudly. This time Lu Ming's strength had completely subdued them, leaving them in awe. Lu Ming's strength was too strong. It would be a piece of cake for him to kill them. Previously, they had offended Lu Ming, causing them to tremble in fear at the thought of it. Furthermore, Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the second layer martial ancestor realm. It was unbelievable for him to possess such strength. They understood that the gap between them and Lu Ming was too great. They would never be able to catch up to him. They were sincerely convinced by Lu Ming's strength. Don't mention it. Since I'm the general of this army, I have the responsibility to ensure your safety. Lu Ming glanced at them and said in a deep voice, the general is too generous. I can't wait any longer. Huang sighed. All right, let's check how many people we've lost. Lu Ming waved his hand and ordered. Yes. Huang immediately cupped his fists and turned around to check. After a while the results were out. 11 young experts of the martial grandmaster realm had died. 3 young experts of the first layer martial ancestor realm had died. This was a great loss. One should know that these were the geniuses secretly cultivated by the imperial family. They were the future pillars of the imperial family, but now they were dead. As for the rest, most of them were injured. The Yinhua Empire. Lu Ming whispered, his eyes flickering with killing intent. At the same time he raised his guard. The Yinhua Empire was most famous for its assassins. The assassins of the Yinhua Empire were very famous in the 36 countries of Emperor Yun. Those assassins who hid in the dark were the most frightening and the most troublesome. Next, Lu Ming increased the number of patrols and sent out the golden-eyed blood zombie to patrol back and forth. The golden-eyed blood zombie did not know fatigue, so it was perfect for patrolling. Lu Ming returned to his tent to refine the essence blood. Just now, the essence blood of those assassins had all been devoured by Lu Ming when he had the chance. There were more than 20 people, and only a few of them were martial grandmasters. The rest were martial artists of the first layer martial ancestor realm and above. The strongest one was of the 6th layer martial ancestor realm. The essence blood of these people gathered together was very large. However, after the 9 dragons bloodline had advanced to the 9th level, the refining speed had greatly increased. Soon all the essence blood was refined and turned into nourishment for the 9 dragons bloodline. Chapter 302. That night was very peaceful. Early the next morning, the army set off and continued to move forward. For the next 4 days, Lu Ming strengthened his vigilance every day. But no assassins of the Yinmoon Empire came. Soon they would arrive at Full Moon City. According to Myeongchang and his siblings, they would arrive at Full Moon City in a few hours. Rumble. Suddenly, the earth rumbled, and the earth trembled faintly. What's going on? On the other side, Ming Peek's expression changed. There's a large number of armored cavalry running. It seems that there are a lot of them. Huaying frowned. Huaying was familiar with the art of war, and was very accurate in judging marching and fighting. Did my father send someone to pick us up? Ming Peek was overjoyed. Impossible. Judging from the sound, there are at least 5,000 soldiers. How could he send so many people to pick us up in this situation? Huaying retorted. Stop. Lu Ming waved his hand and the army stopped. Then Lu Ming rose into the air, hid in a dark cloud and looked forward. More than 10 miles ahead, there was a long team running along the mountain path. Each person was riding a huge wolf. At a glance, there were more than 5,000 people or even close to 10,000 people. Among them, there was a flag with a moon embroidered on one side and a wolf embroidered on the other. The army of the Yin Moon Empire. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. Then he landed and told him what he saw. What? Why is the army of the Yin Moon Empire here? Has Full Moon City been breached? Ming Peek exclaimed. Father. Pearl's voice trembled and was full of worry. I don't think so. Judging from the number of people in this army and the direction of their march, they most likely came from some small path and wanted to sneak attack Full Moon City. If I'm not wrong, Full Moon City is probably in a war right now. If that's the case, when this army arrives, Full Moon City's mountain guard will be attacked from both sides. Huaying analyzed. Lu Ming couldn't help but look at Huaying in a new light. He didn't expect him to have such a good analysis of war. Let's lower our voices and advance stealthily. We'll set up an ambush ahead and annihilate this army. Lu Ming waved his hand and gave the order. Immediately, the 20,000-strong army dismounted and led their horses to set up an ambush on a hillside 2 miles away. The hillside was covered with weeds and tiny trees. The height of the trees could reach up to 2 meters. It was impossible for people and horses to see anything when they walked in. At the bottom of the hill, there was a slightly flat mountain path. By the time Lu Ming and the others had hidden themselves, the Yin Moon Empire's army had already approached. Roar! Roar! Wolf howls sounded one after another. The earth rumbled as a great army rushed over. Every soldier was tall and sturdy. They wore metal armor and carried bows and large blades on their backs. Beneath them were black wolves that were about 2 meters tall. They howled incessantly and emitted a murderous aura. This is the famous Grey Wolf army of the Yin Moon Empire. Huaying's expression changed slightly. Lu Ming's expression changed as well. He had heard of the Grey Wolf army of the Yin Moon Empire. Most of the Yin Moon Empire's territory was boundless grasslands and plateaus. There were countless monsters on them. Therefore, the cavalry of the Yin Moon Empire was very famous. According to the different mounts, they were divided into many armies, such as the Grey Wolf Army and the Crimson Moon Demonic Tiger Army. They were very powerful. Rumble. Accompanied by wolf howls, the front of the Grey Wolf Army rushed over from the mountain path below. Lu Ming didn't make a move. It wasn't time yet. It would be best to wait until more people rushed over. Soon more than half of the Grey Wolf Army had rushed over. Kill! At this time Lu Ming let out a loud shout. He let the charge down. Kill! Kill! The 20,000-strong army mounted their green-scaled horses and roared as they charged down from the hillside. Their momentum was like a rainbow. Oh no, enemy attack! The Grey Wolf Army roared. Kill! Lu Ming shouted and rushed down the hillside in an instant. He formed a giant spear that was over 100 meters long and swept it out. Bang! Bang! Suddenly, dozens of Grey Wolf cavalry soldiers were killed by Lu Ming's spear along with their armor and mounts. Blood, flesh, and bones splattered everywhere. Even the armor exploded into pieces and shot in all directions, piercing through the armor of the soldiers of the Grey Wolf Army and killing them. With one spear, Lu Ming killed more than 50 armored soldiers. Kill! Lu Ming held his spear and swept it again. Another 50 soldiers were killed. Devour! Lu Ming controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline. His left palm was like a whirlpool, releasing a strong devouring power. All the blood essence was devoured by Lu Ming. Although most of these soldiers were in the martial soldier realm, some were in the martial mentor realm, and only a few were in the martial grand mentor realm, There were so many of them that Lu Ming didn't let them go. And the blood essence of the gray wolf. Whoosh whoosh, drops of blood essence were devoured by Lu Ming and refined crazily. Kill. At that moment the army on the hillside had arrived. They separated the gray wolf army into several groups and surrounded them. The scene fell into a chaotic battle. Damn it, die. More than 10 generals in armor with strong auras rose into the air and charged towards Lu Ming and the rest. Obviously, they were the martial ancestor realm experts of the army. Good timing. Lu Ming rushed forward. Hua Ying and the other martial ancestor realm experts also went up to meet them. Lu Ming targeted a martial ancestor realm 5th realm expert at first glance. This person should be the most powerful expert of the army. Bang! Lu Ming swept his spear and the armor of the martial ancestor realm 5th realm general exploded. He coughed up blood and flew back. This person is too strong. I can't defeat him. The general was scared out of his wits and turned to run. However, in the next moment, poof! A long spear pierced through his heart and killed him. Lu Ming devoured his blood essence and turned to kill the rest. More than 10 martial ancestor realm experts were not enough for them to kill. Before long they were all killed. Then they charged towards the Grey Wolf cavalry. The Grey Wolf cavalry had a small number of people. There were about 10,000 of them and Lu Ming and the rest had ambushed them. Naturally they had the upper hand. When Lu Ming and the other martial ancestor realm experts joined in, the battle became even more one-sided. An hour later the battle was over. More than 10,000 Grey Wolf cavalry were killed and their corpses covered the forest. Count the number of casualties. Lu Ming gave the instructions. While waiting he refined the blood essence. Soon, his body flashed and all the blood essence was refined. I still haven't leveled up. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. At that moment the number of casualties was out. 2,009 people died and a few thousand were injured. This number made Lu Ming's heart tremble. Lu Ming did not expect so many people to die in the battle. The Grey Wolf cavalry is too strong. Hua Ying sighed beside him. In this battle they had launched a surprise attack and had twice the number of people. Even with the help of the martial ancestor realm experts, more than 2,000 people died. This showed how powerful the Grey Wolf cavalry was. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.